Hello there. Welcome to Lifeline on Wells Television, your preferred wholesome TV, where we give you wholesome content that is suitable for everyone. My name is Bolanle Udweku Ayola. I'll be your host today. And of course, on Lifeline, we talk about issues that have to do with our lives. That's why it's called Lifeline. If it has to do with something that can affect you, either your health, education, what you eat, you'll find it here on Lifeline. Now, let me say that you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the subscription button. It's just subscribe right there below. Just click on the button and also click on the bell. It's a notification bell. It helps you know when we upload new content. That way, you don't have to keep checking all the time. You just get the notification that we have uploaded new content. Also, kindly like our Facebook page at Wells Television. We also post lovely content on our Facebook page that I would like you to, be aware of. So welcome once again to Lifeline. Today on Lifeline, we'll be talking about a system of education that has, well, I won't say it's new. It's not new in Nigeria, but seems to be gaining more prominence in the Nigeria of today. And I won't be discussing that alone, of course. My guest today is Mrs. Motunrayo Uyanga Okunowo. She is the founder and director of Montessori in Ibadan, Oluyole, Ibadan, your state. She has about 15 years plus experience in this job, so she's not a newcomer the way they say it. She's certified in Montessori Practical Life. She also has a certification in Montessori Cultural Education and Montessori Language and Literacy for various age groups. She has a BSc in Economics, a diploma in Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and a diploma in Office Administration. Hello, Ma.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
You're welcome to Lifeline.
Thank you.
Okay. So, do you want to tell us a bit more about yourself, how you found yourself in the education line?
Okay. I love working with children. I have over 15 years experience from working with special needs children, working with regular children, working with different kind of children, and that has actually brought me to the fact that and I have two children of my own, two kids of my own, and they actually went through the Montessori training. And having seen that, and myself going through the traditional way of learning, and I've seen the impact or the differences you could see in a child's life. First of all, environment will play a major factor in a child's upbringing, but education too goes a long way because they will spend most of their time in school than at home while growing up. So, raising my children, working with children with disabilities, I've actually kind of drawn me close. I've worked in different fields, but something just keep bringing me back into the children's life. And that's one thing I said to myself, okay, maybe this is actually a calling. Then I just decided to set up my own school and to help children. More for me, it's more like helping children, honestly.
Okay, so what is this Montessori education? What makes it different from? I mean, growing up, I didn't hear about Montessori. I just went to the regular nursery and primary school, and I'm sure that many of our viewers also went to the regular nursery and primary school. So they're asking, what is Montessori in the first place?
Why is everybody shouting Montessori? Montessori has actually been in existence for a long time. Dr. Maria Montessori, which is the founder of Montessori, it was founded in 1907, yes, and it was in Italy. And our idea was just to bring children that do not have the advantage of going to a regular school. Just started a center and put them together. And she now realized that children can actually learn better when they have the freedom in a structured environment.
So let me cut in here and say, what do you mean by children who couldn't attend a regular school? Are we talking about special needs children? Or children whose parents couldn't afford to put them in school?
Altogether, actually.
Okay.
So she had children with disabilities, and she also had children that could not, maybe their parents could not afford the tuition. But anybody that generally has disadvantage in having their children go to a regular school, that was our idea, and that was why she started the whole Montessori thing. Then she now realized in the center where she had started this group of children, she realized based on observation that children could learn freely when they have freedom of learning. So what that means is Montessori is actually based on child center based. So what that means is you're guiding. They have a slogan saying, "Teach, guide me, don't tell me what to do." Basically,
Mm.
that's what it means. Guide me, don't tell
Guide me,
me
don't tell me
what
what
to
to
do.
do.
So you just leave the child. For example, a child wants to drink water. Instead of just getting the glass of water to that child, take the child to where they're going to get the water and let them pick up the glass themselves. It's going to be messy, I tell a lot of parents, because we're just looking for a quick way. But when your child is centered and you just help, you guide them to do what it is, it makes them very confident. It gives them the ability to know that they can do it and it's okay to make mistakes. It's not a bad thing. And it's just, it makes life generally easy.
Mm. Now, people will always say, "Oh, when you adopt things in different countries, when it comes to Nigeria, there must be a
Do it.
twist, there must be a change."
Yeah.
So Montessori education in the Nigerian educational landscape. I was, with someone, an educator as well over the week who I highly respect. And then she said, well, she doesn't think that every child needs a Montessori education. She said, she asked me, she said, did you get a Montessori education? I said, no. She said, are you doing fine? I said, yes. She said, are we not seeing so many children who didn't get a Montessori education, doing fine? So, coming to the Nigerian educational system, how does this work out for in the Nigerian education system, where we have where the government provides curriculum, for the students and all of that? So how does the Montessori approach, the child-led approach, or the child-centered approach, how does it fit into what we have here in Nigeria?
Okay. When we grew up, okay, we were basically going through the traditional way of learning. So the teacher asks you to do. Unfortunately, a lot of people do grow up with a memorizing
Yeah, two
way of
times one,
studying.
two, two
Yeah,
times two,
exactly.
four.
And you just see them cram and dump, cram and dump, cram and dump kind of a thing. Um, yes, a lot of us have functioned very well based on that system. But also, uh, the world is evolving. I was born in the 80s, and the education that I went through, I can't go through that now because now life is a lot easier. There's internet, there's gadgets, so you can't teach how you were teaching before, and you want to bring that approach into this new system. It won't work because personally, I do believe that um, a child does not need to know two times two by heart. No, a child
Why?
doesn't.
Why do you say
Because
so?
in children of this age growing up, by the time they're doing their assessment, we have open book exams nowadays. We have and the immigration stuff going on every, of course not every child will have the opportunity to travel, or not everybody will want to travel. But if they're being exposed truthfully, you have your calculators, you have your phones. Phones are allowed in most high schools now. And why cram it? Why not look for a way whereby they can know it without cramming it?
I have to like lean back. So,
Okay.
when you say this, I wonder, things like knowing to, it wasn't just about cramming. We crammed it first and they got to know why, right?
Okay.
Two in one place is two, two in two places four, two in three places six. That's the point of the multiplication, right? So when you say that a child doesn't need to, have it up there because it's a calculator, where's the space for like mental mathematics? I know these days they even do abacus, where I don't know. It's always funny to me because I didn't learn that way. I don't understand what they're doing. They just do 5 plus 2 and 2 and 5,
Yeah.
and that's mental mathematics.
Yes.
So how does how does this come together? Saying that the children don't have to cram. How then do they do things like mental maths?
Abacus is good. Actually, we're thinking of incorporating that too. But there are better ways to. Okay, what's the purpose of mental math? In future, why do we have mental math? It's because of critical thinking. You want the child to be thrown out and to be able to decide, or
To be fast, to
to
be
be
able to,
fast.
yeah.
So we have better. Yeah, I don't want to say better, but there are other ways where that can be explored. We have chess. We have abacus, as you mentioned. Um, I can't remember some other things on top of my head, but those are the things that will actually help that child. Abacus, for example, I love it. I really love it.
Is that child based, or how do you put it? Is that child led? Is
The abacus?
yes.
Yes, is child centered activities, because a child is mentally thinking. So when you say child led, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't guide the child. It doesn't really matter what you're teaching, you still have to guide a child because they don't know it. Of course, there are gifted children that are born with that gift ability to just pick up things, but most children will still have to learn, right? So we just have to still guide them regardless. But I prefer to guide a child and say, so for example, the way I would teach Montessori actually will group children based on their pace, their abilities. So the way I will teach a child that can assimilate fast is different from the way that I will teach a child that he or she will take his or her time to assimilate. So we can go with pebbles and we're working on additions because that child probably might like pebbles. And we can go on piece of paper and a pen and teach another
The
child
child likes to write.
because that child likes to write. I have children that are amazing with reading. So for a child that loves reading, we will definitely go with figuring out a way to make it into words and have that child learn through that way. And a child that actually likes physical counting, or that like playing with sands, or that like playing with nature, will go through
So
that
it's
route
about
too.
finding a way that is specific to each child, to learn best.
Yes, but when you say specific to each child, it might not work in a school structure.
I was going to ask because that would mean that you need a large staff strength.
Yes, and you also need a large classroom. So we'll definitely group them. We'll kind of find a common ground for the age based. Montessori on its own ways, you're supposed to actually have different age group in the same room. But in Nigerian standard, because to be honest, I do not believe a Nigerian school can have a full Montessori center,
Why did you say this?
because you're not supposed to group a child, or you're not supposed to group children. So unlike Nigerian settings now, you have age 0 to 2 crèche or play group or whatever it's been called, and you have the pre-elementary school. That's not actually what Maria Montessori did, and that's not what Montessori was all about. It's about putting everybody under the same group and watch all of them just learn together, and now pick up the bases and see the age group that is doing well, and you focus on that age group and you help them build it up.
So what happens to the others?
Everybody's in the same age group.
Oh,
So,
okay.
for example, I have group age 0 to, let's say, 6, ideally, in an age group or in a center working together, and we want to do the Montessori child center type of education. So, if you're doing addition, we all know addition is the same. So, it's just 0 to 2 might do single digits, while 5 to 6
Double
might do
digits.
double digits. So, what you do in that kind of setting is that you focus more on each group in the same room, because children will learn faster by imitations and by when they see what others are doing. So they're in the same center doing the same thing, but at the same time, you're watching them and you're guiding them based on their strength.
Now, for children who are, normally, I know that one of the issues that a lot of parents have with traditional schools is that they believe that, usually teachers using just one method to teach about like maybe 10, 20 students, and they believe that there are some students who are not quick to catch up. There's some who will feel there's some who are so gifted that whatever method the teacher is using is too slow for them. And I think that's like the major concern that people usually have about the traditional school. Now, when it comes to the Montessori education, do children who are really gifted and really intelligent, do they need this Montessori training? Wouldn't they do better, in a traditional school?
Okay, so I think where the issue is now is we are thinking of academics alone for Montessori.
So it's not all about academics
No,
alone.
it's more about a child's self-awareness and confidence. So I think basically that's what Montessori is about. It's just making a child very confident and aware of themselves. Like I said earlier on, it's okay for a child to make mistakes. So when we're looking at gifted children, first of all, I personally believe that a gifted child should go to a gifted school. That's my number one belief. So if you have a gifted child, there's no point bringing that child into a normal school, be it traditional school or be it Montessori school. So take that child to a gifted school, because that's where that child can actually explore his or her own talent. But when we come to an average child, or a child that is takes his or her time to assimilate or to learn, Then even in a traditional school, I do believe that's why we have the class A, class B, class C, so that children can be placed in appropriate class. But also, I also believe that a child will learn faster when it's a competition, healthy competition. Let's put it that way, because children like to compete, will like it or not. I think it's just the normal human drive feeling. Okay, I don't want you to be better than me. We just have to channel it to be an healthy competition. So when you put children in group and okay, so what we do encourage in Montessori is mistakes are fine. I think that's the number one thing you have to just know. Mistakes are fine. They're part of success. They are part of education. They are part of you learning. Actually, I tell my kids, if you're getting it right from the first time something is not right somewhere, maybe you should be in a gifted school or something. But when they actually learn from their mistakes, or when you make that mistakes, then let's walk it through. What did we do wrong? How can we fix it? So I'm not telling you what to do. So this is your mistake. How do we fix it?
So the children write exams in Montessori schools?
They do. Assessment, yes.
Like the regular examination that we know?
Yes.
Question and answer?
Yes. Depending on the age group, age based. So talking of exams, and the reason why they do write exams is unfortunately because Montessori school is not cut across. So most schools are now doing it just in primary school and elementary school.
I was going to ask. I was actually coming to that because if my child goes through the Montessori way of learning in primary school, are they not going to have an issue in secondary school? Because the approach is going to change. It's going to be completely different. And so, because I've actually seen someone, well, this wasn't Montessori, but it was one of these foreign schools here in Ibadan. I schooled in Ibadan. My secondary school, the school, there was this particular boy. He was in a school where, their approach was, I think US or UK based, not Nigeria education system based. So basically, if you attended that school, you were not going to do your, go to a university in Nigeria. It was a secondary school. Right? He went to the primary and went to the secondary. But midway, the dad could no longer afford to pay, for that school. And then they were paying in dollars. So he could no longer afford, and then brought him to a regular school. And it was a struggle. This guy struggled even all through university because he had to end up going to a federal university here in Nigeria. So if my child, what's in it for me as a parent? If I take my child to a Montessori primary school and they're going to a regular secondary school where, they're just going to have to start the struggle all over again.
Okay. What is the struggle? Montessori is a lifestyle, and it's not just the school. I was actually going to come into that because it has to be parents involved too. So what you've asked, what exactly is Montessori? Is a child-based. It's not only about education, and that's why I said we are doing the Nigerian curriculum, because once they finish primary school, they have to go to another secondary school, which Montessori is now cut across. But if a parent is involved in, for example, let me actually break it down. I said my kids are not in Nigeria, but they go through Montessori. But they are currently in secondary school. And the secondary school is also not Montessori. But one thing I found out about what they do in Canada is it's a system that is, yes, most schools are actually owned by Catholic, or they are owned by the government, but they are actually all being monitored. But it's a system that works across through. So your child is learning from primary school, dependent, doing things themselves don't help them. Okay, let me dive out a bit. So let's go to assignments. So most traditional school will give assignments, and let me not say 80, but I'll say 60% of the time parents are the one doing the assignments.
We help them
because they don't want to be bothered. And most times, I don't know, but what I do, complaints that I find that parents say is they give them assignments that they have not been taught, and they want them to go learn it at home first. And I don't know how true that is. These are complaints from parents. And so coming to a Montessori school, of course, there are pressures from parents to give assignments. So even when you give assignments, I say don't help them. So when you're giving a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old an assignment, first of all, like I was telling you the other time before we started the show, the primary schools should not be even having a lesson, to be honest. Let the kid be a kid. And when you're giving a 4-year-old assignment and you're telling a 4-year-old to trace maybe number 1, or you're having them pronounce something, don't help them. What you want to see is their ability. You want to see how they can do it under a structure, and you want to see how they can do it when there's no structure. So when it becomes a lifestyle, even when they transition into secondary school, or even when they transition, primary school is the foundation. So it's just like
is.
building a house. Once the foundation is strong, by the time a child is leaving primary school, and that's one thing I like about Nigerian Montessori, we are very age conscious. So you can't bring in your child to me and you're saying that your child is 5 years old and your child is in grade 2 or primary 2. Or first of all, we have to assess that child. That child has to fit into that system. So by the
So it's
time
based on the abilities of the child.
ability of the child. By the time your child is finishing primary school, that child has a mind of its own to a certain extent. Even if they're going to get influence, it has to take a good or strong influence. Because by the time a child, let's say you're leaving primary school at 10, I'm hoping, by the time you leave primary school at 10-year-old and you're going into secondary school, yes, peer pressure comes in. But even if...
pardon me, aside peer pressure, let me give you a real life example. I attended my primary school here in Ibadan, in Oliole here.
Okay.
And I mean, it was a traditional primary school, obviously, but the approach was soft.
Okay.
Not like what we have in a lot of the schools. The approach was soft, just as I said, there was room for mistakes. We're taught that, okay, 2 times 2 is 4. It's not just because it's 2 times 2. This is why, right?
Okay.
This is why for everything we're told why, it was that way. And it made a lot of sense. But then I transitioned to a secondary school where every morning would stand up and recite 2 times 2 till we get to 12 times table, and then you have to stand up and recite. If you don't get it, you'll be beaten. And it was a struggle for me to, fit into that, because where I was coming from, you didn't have to stand up every morning to do 2 times 1, 2, 3 times 1, 3, and then get into a school like that. So I struggled. I eventually had to leave. I come back to Ibadan. I just told my mom, I can't cope. So what's going to stop children that have Montessori primary education from also having that struggle?
Just like you said, you didn't go to Montessori school and you had to go through that struggle. And from what you have actually described from the school you were coming from, they were actually using Montessori style. So it doesn't necessarily have to be named Montessori. So it could be. This is where parents comes in, where they have to be intentional. So you can't pick up a child. So I see people bringing a child from abroad and bringing them into a Nigerian system. It's going to be a struggle. So they either go into depression, if they don't have the proper transition in, everything you do is going to be a struggle. So when you're taking a child away from a Montessori school, they are secondary school, even in the same Ibadan, that go through soft life, right? So, sorry I had to use the word soft life, but that they go through understanding of, it's 2025. We don't have to stand on the assembly and be reciting some things that I call unnecessary. But there are things that, what do we really need education for? Is it everything we do in school that we're going to use in practical life? So what are we really teaching in school? I feel like educators have to come together, and I feel like the government have to really work on the Nigerian education system,
now,
especially the private schools.
Talking about that, is there an association for Montessori schools in Nigeria? Reason I'm asking that is because it seems now that when you turn left and right, if you're going on the road and you turn left, you see a Montessori school, you turn right, you see another Montessori. Everyone, some schools, more than before, are now claiming to be Montessori. How do we ascertain that what these people are? Because they're saying, oh, we're Montessori school, but you're hiring regular teachers. The regular teachers that haven't gone through training. Schools, yes. Yeah. So how do we identify an authentic Montessori school?
As a parent, you have to invest in questioning. I tell people I prefer a referral than somebody that just walks in and says, I saw your signboard. And to be honest, a school does not have to actually bear the name Montessori to actually practice Montessori. To me, Montessori name is more marketing. The name of my school is a Montessori school, but it's more of marketing. And when I came into starting the school, I didn't even know the name was that all over the whole place. I started saying it. Of course, when you buy a car, you don't know how popular that car is until you start driving. I'm like, okay, why is this car so popular? And that's what happened. So if you want to actually register or find an authentic school, and you're very correct, how many of us can actually train a teacher to go through this Montessori training? aside from the money that you're putting in, most of these teachers will not stay.
Mm.
And most of these teachers are not used to what it is being called. So sometimes, even after training the teachers, they sit back, they're scared, they don't know what to do.
So how does that work for you as a school owner? How easy is it then? I know I asked this question off air, but I'll ask it here again. How easy is it, getting teachers who are plugged into this Montessori way of life?
It's not. What I did personally was, and I know I've been crucified for this too, I focus more on the new generation teachers.
Younger
teachers, because they are more open. They are more open into, I want to see how this works. So now I have teachers whereby, first of all, we are using 100% computer for exams. So as soon as you're in grade 2, all grade 2 students in grade 6, you're writing your exam is computer based. So the same thing applies to the teachers. It's easier for me to have a 20-something or a 30-something-year-old teacher to say, okay, you have to set your exams on the computer, than telling the 40, I'm sorry,
a teacher with about 20 years experience.
Now telling them that, okay, you have to set your exam on computer, you will see the resentment, like, why are we doing this? But now when you have younger teachers, I've seen teachers that are very curious. Some of them have actually never heard of what Montessori is. But once they are into the system, they liked it because they're open-minded. Now it's just, we have to, as a school owner and also in business, you just have to watch how much they are willing to. You have to make some sacrifices, of course. You have to invest in them so that they can stay, and you have to be completely open and honest with them, and you tell them, because parents get really upset when you change. But at the same time,
it's not also good for the children as well.
It's not also good for the children, that's true. But at the same time, these are adults. You can't force them. And sometimes they get into the system, they're not cut out for it. You can't tell I see a teacher that's saying that I cannot be cutting banana with a child in school. Right? And we're working with children, but you're working on their grapes, and even when parents come into the school and they realize that, okay, I'm registering my child into Montessori, same parents will come into the school and say, why is my child not writing at 3?
Yeah, so how do you cope with the pressure from parents? My children attend like a regular nursery and primary school, and I know parents that still say, why, for example, my son is in nursery, and I know a parent who said, oh, why are they not writing 1 to 100 yet?
We get it a lot. And my response still says, let the child be a child. Will they eventually write it? Yes. Will you guide them to it? Yes. But psychologically, when a child is ready, a child is ready.
Let me be like one of those parents and ask you, won't my child be, behind his peers? Then we go to church, and in children's church, the other children are reading their manual, and my child can't read, and I'm paying so much.
Okay, are you looking for a child that understands what you're saying, or you're looking for a robot? That's my question. I go to church and I see children memorizing. Yes, don't get me wrong, memorizing Bible passage or Bible verses as a Christian, it helped me, right? But that was in a very long run. And sometimes I see a child freeze on the stage because they can't memorize it. Don't forget that child is going to be traumatized for a long time. So why don't you let the child work at his or her own pace? When they are ready, they are ready.
So we shouldn't look at, my child
Don't
is not on the same stage.
That's actually my reading to all my parents, especially this holiday time. I posted something on my status one time. This is holiday time. Please, most of us are still traumatized from your cousin can do this, you can't do this. And you'll take your child or your children to another family members, and now there's comparison. What school is your child going to? How come your child cannot do this and this social person is doing it? Actually, I have somebody responded to it and says, I don't talk to my cousin up till dates because of that. And I actually know, my own husband too, I had the same experience. And I know a lot of people that have gone through that. Why compare? And should I shock you? A lot of those people that you are comparing with, some of us are even better than them now.
So I'd like you to look to the camera and answer these 2 questions. Would you recommend Montessori education for every child? Or are there cases where it might not be the best fit for that child? And 2, is Montessori education only for special needs children?
I'll answer the latter question first. And I think that's a misconception. It's not actually for special needs children. Like I had mentioned earlier before, Dr. Maria Montessori started it for children that are disadvantaged in getting proper education, be it disabled children or be it children that maybe financial reasons or whatever it could be. I feel like this is a personal observation because I've had a lot of Down syndrome, children on the spectrum, speech delay kids. I've had their parents come into school and says, "Oh, I heard you're a Montessori school, and I heard that that's where my child should be," and so on. No, but what I do understand that Montessori can help with a disabled child. And it depends when it comes to Down syndrome. I don't like using the word disabled. Let's say special need. So when it comes to a special need child, I feel like they can learn in a regular school, Montessori inclusive. I have mentioned before, Montessori it's not different from a regular school. It's just the lifestyle that you are incorporating in a child. So that doesn't mean any child can be in Montessori, gifted, regular, high end, low, low assimilation. And classifying a child or children into they can learn fast or they can learn slow, I think it's just was actually trying to say a child is good at something. Every child is good at something. It can be academics, it can be arts. I have two children. One is exceptionally good when it comes to academics. The other is exceptionally good when it comes to anything artistic, right? That does not mean that that is their strength. Their strengths are different in different ways, right? So I want parents to see that way. So Montessori school or way of learning, any child at all will benefit from it because it's not about education. It is about their lifestyle. It's about building a child's confidence. It's about telling a child it's okay to make mistakes. It's about telling a child everyone is better at one thing or the other. Because you're good at one does not mean that you're bad at the other. Your strength is also your strength, and somebody else's weakness could also be your own strength.
Thank you so much, Ma. So far, we've had a wonderful time on Lifeline today. I've had with me Mrs. Mutsunrayo Uyanga Ugunowo, and we'll be talking about Montessori education, unpacking what it actually, means. Is there anything else as we wrap up that you think that the government, needs to do to make education in general, in Nigeria better?
First of all, educators. I want all of us to first of all see ourselves as co-workers. I think we are the one that can actually change the world, to be honest. So if the government can actually regulate it in such a way that, first of all, they help us with getting good teachers. I think that's the number one thing that they have to look into. Maybe NCE or
like the days when we had the teachers college and it was really, we still have the NCE now. But
and if they can actually channel them to private schools as well, not just public schools, right? And if they can, any way that the government can regulate it, and for any good educator that actually wants the best in the educational system, we can all dialogue about it. It should not just be about profit making. Yes, you want to have a business and make profit, but I do not believe that should be the primary goal or the primary aim. So if the government can actually find a regulatory body, functioning regulatory body that can actually make that work.
All right, thank you so much, Ma. And with this, we've come to the end of Lifeline for today. Don't forget that education is the most powerful weapon that you can use to change the world. And so keep asking questions. Keep looking for the best form of education for your child. You know why? Because your child is the future of tomorrow. Thank you so much, my guest, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much to everyone who has kept on watching up until now. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Wells Television, and also to like our Facebook page at Wells Television. And keep it locked down here on our page at Wells Television. You know why? Because this is where you get the best of wholesome content that is suitable for every single person. My name is Bolanle Uduekun Ayola. Until next time on Lifeline, bye-bye.